course. That's what friends do. He's gonna pay!
Welcome everyone to my latest action figure review, as I have one for the Bandai Nation's SE Figuarts line with the One Piece Monkey D. Luffy for the Romance Dawn arc. So the original colors of the red and blue, the East Blue Saga is back once again. It's cool to Nations are bringing back the One Piece line with the raid on Onigashima, but this is the classic look a lot of people have waited for. And even before, when I started collecting the SHF line, they did release a One Piece kind of series, and it did have this version of Luffy. That figure is pretty outdated now, so it's good that we do have like a modern day updated version. So kind of like the raid on Onigashima one, I guess the packaging is pretty similar. I do like how it's presented as usual with the titles, the stickers and logos. A good shot of Luffy in a classic pose, and they've used that straw cutout at the top once again with the map. And then on the side we have the title with a shot of the figure. On the other side we have the different expressions that really sell the One Piece line. And then at the bottom we have, of course, Monkey D. Luffy once again with a shot of the figure. And then at the back we have the figure in different poses. So no background inside, but we do have the instruction manuals on the side of the box. And here is Monkey D. Luffy inside his packaging. So here is the first look at the Luffy figure taken out of its packaging, and I guess first impressions. No surprises by now what Nations are producing. In terms of their anime characters, they're probably the top company at the moment alongside Figma. That's just my opinion. I think every time they have an anime character, it does somewhat look like it's jumped straight from the anime, and I do tend to say that a lot. But in terms of the overall build, the sculpt, the colors, they really pop, and this is just a very classic look of Luffy that you have to have in your collection. And even though I don't have the original one, I'm pretty sure for a fact this is the better figure, at least in terms of the build and the sculpt. And this is just an updated modern day version. So it's a very classic look of Luffy minus the straw hat. So this is the one with the red vest this time, the blue shorts, and of course the sandals once again. So we will take a look at the straw hat and the rest of the accessories as we move along the review. So in terms of first impressions, yes, this is just a very classic look, and I guess if you're into One Piece, this is the one to get. Even though it's cool they've done the raid on Onigashima version, but of course this is really the classic look. And I guess it's kind of like if you're into Dragon Ball, you must have the base form version of Goku. So it's the same for One Piece. This is the one that you must have in the collection. And it's kind of good that they did do this one first, because this is not a perfect figure. There were many flaws to this, so hopefully they got feedback and improved on it on this figure. So now for the different accessories, I'm going to start off with the classic straw hat for Luffy, and this is kind of like the way they've built it in the previous figure, where you do need to swap out the hairstyle. So they have included 2 extra pieces to connect it with the hat, which I'm going to do now. So once we switched out the hair pieces, of course we can have the classic straw hat placed on Luffy, and this just gives off that very iconic look. And I believe in terms of the way it's being built and the materials used, it is very similar to the previous figure they had for the raid on Onigashima. So it does kind of have that rubber materials around it, and it's just a very classic look for Luffy, and probably the one that a lot of people will be using. So yeah, this just kind of gives it that ultimate look of Luffy, just a very iconic one, and I guess it's a good start to the figure. And now we can take a look at the other accessories with the hands. So we're going to start off with the ones right out of the box, which is the closed fists for the punching poses. For the first set of alternative hands, we have a set of kind of the relaxed open palms for kind of the more natural poses, as well as a set of grappler hands, which can be used for more of those action poses. And for the final set, they've included one right hand with the pointing of the fingers, as well as a left hand to hold on to the meat bone. And now we can take a look at the different expressions on the face sculpt, which is one of the standouts for this One Piece line. So the one right out of the packaging, of course, is that natural look with the smiling face. So for the first alternative faceplate, we have the happy expression with the laughing face sculpt for that iconic pose. And for the third alternative faceplate, we have the angry expression, which is probably the most animated one in this figure. And this can be used for many different poses, whether it's more for the comedic look or for the fighting poses. And for the final expression, which is pretty funny, which is the meat in the mouth. And this, of course, will be used to pair up with the meat in the hand, which I will do next. And of course, all of these faceplates can be used without the straw hat. And now for one of the interesting pieces included in this figure, and this one really had me sold in the promo photos, and that is Luffy's favourite food, the meat on the bone. So it is a pretty solid piece. You can see it does have a really nice sculpt. So 2 bones on either side, and then we have the bite, which of course the other piece is in the mouth. So what you have to do is you just pull out the bone and then you slip it through the hand, of course, to have that effect. And once it's connected on, we have Luffy munching onto his favourite meal. So now let's take a look at the articulation, so the movement of the figure, starting off with the head sculpt. You can see it goes side to side, no problems, left and right, and it does have a full 360 spin. It moves alongside the neck as well, downwards quite a lot, and then upwards quite a lot as well. So far so good. And then for the arms, you can see they move side to side, no problems, and you can stretch them forwards, upwards, backwards, and good rotation there. And for the vest, it is built in some sort of soft rubber material, so there are some limitations to the arms. You do have to kind of pull it down before you move it, but you can see it does have good rotation on the biceps, and there's also a elbow bend, and as expected there is a rotation on the hands with the hinge. And then let's see how far these arms go in terms of backwards. You do have to pull it down slightly, and you can see it does move backwards this much, and then forwards this much. And I remember the Raidon Onigashima joints were very loose, at least on one side of the arms. And let me quickly show you. You can see it is a long sleeves. They made the right side very loose, which was kind of disappointing. I was expecting them to maybe include some accessory on another figure or some sort of set for the long limbs, but yeah, this one was made really badly. But it was fixed in this version because there is no such thing as loose arms, but you can detach the forearm, because I know that they will include some sort of set that's releasing soon where you can switch it out for the long limbs. And I just wish they included it in this actual figure. Even if it made it a bit more pricey, it should be pretty standard to include some sort of accessory like that, but I guess it is the way it is. You just have to buy the set. So for the body, there's good rotation, of course side to side as well. Very smooth despite the rubber materials for the vest, and you can see forwards, downwards, and then for the waist as well, very smooth, and then side to side, left and right, and then the body crunch, and it can go backwards this much as well. And then for the legs, they kick forwards and then they rotate backwards as well, and you can also do the splits very well. And then we also have kind of rotation on the legs, not so much. But then for the legs inside, we have the knee bend. They only go as far back like this because the shorts are made out of hard materials. And then for, of course, the foot, we have rotation, there is a hinge, and there's movement on the sandals once again. So yeah, in terms of articulation, I think this is actually pretty smooth, and it's no loose joints compared to the previous one. So now for the size comparison, starting off with the SE Figuarts One Piece line from the Raidon Onigashima with Luffy and Zoro. And here it is next to the SE Figuarts live action versions of the Netflix show with Luffy and Zoro. Here it is next to an SE Figuarts Goku and Piccolo, as well as the Jada Toys Chun-Li and Dhalsim. Here it is next to some Marvel Legends with a Spider-Man and Tony Stark, as well as next to a Mafex Joker and Superman. So now for my final thoughts on the SE Figuarts Monkey D. Luffy for the Romance Dawn line. So this is pretty much a must for One Piece fans, since they are bringing back the classic look of the series, as the original colours in red and blue is now not only an iconic look in One Piece but in anime in general. No doubt this figure does everything I was expecting in terms of the overall look, the face expressions as well as the different poses. I really like the meat on the bone as the accessory, as I think it really adds something to the displays, and the articulation also seems to be on point. The only thing is we didn't get any hands to hold on to the straw hat, and also add some long limbs would have been nice, but I know the way Tamashinations do things, you do need to buy the accessory set. So overall it is a really basic figure, but one that you should definitely add into the collection. So I expect this to have re-releases over and over again, like you see with some of the other anime characters. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 as it does its job and there's enough variety for different poses and it's a really good start to the East Blue arc. Check out my SH Figuarts reviews of the One Piece line, including the Luffy from the Raid on Onigashima line as well as the Netflix show. Stay tuned to more and hope to see you next time.